I have my waistband pressed and pinned, and I'm going to sew. These are my 2 spots that I've already marked, and they're about 3-ish inches apart. 2 to 4 inches is really what you're going for. And this is the opening I'm going to leave for my waistband. I'll start here. I'm going to sew all the way around, and then I'll stop here, back stitching at both of these points, and leave this opening so that I can slide my elastic through, slide it all the way around, pull it out, sew it together, like I'll sew my elastic together, cut any extra elastic off, and then it'll suck back in here, so it'll be in one tube, and I'll just finish off my tube in a little bit. But for now, I'm going to sew this, leaving that opening there. When I sew it, I don't want to sew at 1 inch, which would be the edge of the stitch plate, because my elastic is 1 inch thick. So if I have 1 inch thick elastic, it's not going to fit in there very good. I need to give it an extra 1/4 inch just to have a little bit of leeway, and it'll make it easier to put in. And there's no 1 1/4 inch marking on our stitch plate, right? Because it ends at 1 inch. So what I'll do instead is I'm going to use my seam gauge here. I'll mark it at the 1 inch, right? And I'm going to go over to the 1 1/4 inch. I'll take some, oh, sorry. I have just some masking tape. So I'm going to go ahead and rip a piece of this masking tape off. Sorry, I know it's, I'm going to zoom out just a second for this. So I'll just take a little strip of masking tape, which you can find in the Tower of Drawers. Take the masking tape, and I will put it at my 1 1/4. So I'm going to use my seam gauge again to mark that at 1 1/4. I did a pretty good job eyeballing that, but you might need to adjust it. So here's my 1 inch, here's my 1 1/4 inches. This is where I'm going to line up my waistband. So we'll pull the waistband back over now. So here's where I'm going to start. Here's where I'm going to end. Starting at my little X, I will line up with the 1 1/4 inch. And if we remember, we folded things under a 1/2 inch. So I have a 1/2 inch folded under, and then we did an 1.5 inches. So what I have folded under should end right about here, right? It's going to end 1/2 inch. So this will give me space to make sure I'm catching that raw edge and making sure that's all enclosed nicely. So 1 1/4, I will back stitch, pull these pins out so I'm not sewing over them. And then I'm going to sew all the way around and back stitch when I get to my other X. If I were to turn my pants inside out, I could put this whole waistband around the arm of my machine, and that could be a little bit easier. I didn't do that, but you can if you would like to. Okay, I'm approaching my other specially marked pin area, right? You might have an X, you might have 3 pins, but whatever it is, that's what I'm approaching, and I'm sewing up to it. I'll take these pins out just so I don't sew over them. But when I get to about that point, I'm going to back stitch, and I'll just be done. I'm going to trim my threads, and I'm going to leave that opening where I can put my elastic in. From here, I want to just go around and see if I have any tucks. And a tuck would just be like a little fold in the fabric that got sewn in that wasn't intentionally meant to be there. So I'll just go around the whole thing. It happens all the time with waistbands, so if there is a tuck, no big deal. We can fix it real easy. But I'm just going to go around, see if I have any So far so good, it looks like. I don't think I had any tucks, but if you did have one, it would just look like a little piece of fabric got sewn like that. So it would just kind of look like that. And you just unpick it and you'd press it again. You'd unpick like a little section around it. So let's say I unpicked from here to here to fix a tuck. Then I would start clear back here, back stitch, so all the way through that back stitch to make sure that whole thing got covered and is strong.